Hey there. Do you have a baby who hates tummy time? I know I did, and with good reason. I want to get into more of that soon with our special guest, but first, welcome to Move and Bloom, a safe space where together we can grow possibilities. I'm so excited to have with me here today Jen Stewart, an Anat Baniel method neuropractitioner. Jen is the owner of Mindful Moves with Jen. Jen got into neuromovement after the birth of her daughter. Her daughter was born with a rare genetic disorder, and Jen was looking for ways to help her develop to her fullest potential. Now, Jen offers online support and classes to parents who want brain-based, gentle, and I will add respectful movement at home for their kids. So welcome, Jen. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Me too. Could you start by telling us your story of becoming a neuromovement practitioner?
Sure. I'll try and keep it short, so keep me on track if I start to ramble. Yeah, so my second daughter was born with a rare genetic disorder. And at the time of her diagnosis, she was the only one diagnosed with this rare genetic disorder. And so her prognosis was unknown, which
Mhm.
is kind of a really scary thing as a parent to hear, right? But we happened to have a really fantastic geneticist who said, we don't know the prognosis of her future. We just don't know. We don't know. Um, your job as a parent is to help her reach her potential. And that stuck with me throughout the journey. So I didn't find out about the Anat Baniel method until she was about 2 years old. Um, and we went through the whole, I'm in Canada, so we get a lot of services provided for us, traditional services provided for us. So we went through all of those and saw very little changes. And we also saw we got a lot of feedback like, we've never seen a child with both low tone and high
Mm.
tone. We don't know what to do with her. We don't work with kids. We had kind of an interesting mix of a lot of professionals just kind of not knowing what to do with her. Um, so of course that gets you as a parent searching for things late at night on Google, and finally found the Anat Baniel method. And I took her to Toronto to see Judith Dack. She's fabulous. And that was the first time I had ever seen a professional look at my child as she was,
Mhm.
not trying to fix her, and truly connect with her. And I thought that this is something special that's happening here. I want to know how to do that. I want to know how to reach my child. And afterwards, um, we saw changes that were very subtle. You often hear of the kids, these really big changes, like suddenly being able to use their arm or suddenly being able to walk. Ours were very, very subtle changes, but snowballed into bigger and bigger ones. So our changes were better coordination, better balance, more engagement with the world. So she
Mhm.
was coming to life more. So after one intensive set of lessons, she laughed. Like she was like 2.5 and had never laughed before. So, which is huge, right?
Mhm.
It's huge, right? So we were seeing things like that. And so I decided to take the training, and the rest is kind of history now. Yeah.
The rest is kind of history. And, I spend my time talking to people like you who have had a child and then had something happen. And let me say that having your child laugh for the first time, it's huge for any parent.
Huge. Yeah.
It's huge. And just to hear of these miracles, large and small, and then people reach a transition point where they say, yes, this is the right thing for me. This is the right thing for my child. And so you went on to the training.
Mhm.
And how did things begin to change for you as you entered into the training phase of your becoming?
Right. Okay. So that's a really good question because Uh, the, the whole process is a process. And it really, now that I'm through it and I've worked in a practice for, so many years with other kids and my own daughter, I'm really kind of obsessed with answering my questions that I had in the beginning of the training. So when I first started the beginning of the training, there's all this theory that I had no idea how to implement in my everyday life. I was like, how is this practical? How do I make those 9 essentials, slowing down, bringing attention, how do I do that in my daily life? And my daily life, through the training, we go through a lot of personal growth in the training. I'm sure you did too. And at that time, during the training, I went through a divorce. I was pregnant and had my 3rd baby. So there were a lot of changes and there were a lot of changes, and I was still wanted to know, how do I make this practical? I have a newborn baby that needs to be fed. I have an older child who wants my attention. I have my middle child having an emotional meltdown over something. So how do I incorporate this information into my everyday life? So that's kind of what I became obsessed about. And I want to pass along to other parents that, like, you can do this in your everyday life. You can create learning moments in your everyday life. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I love that because this is a process. That's why I say, tell us your story of becoming, because this is what we experience as becoming practitioners, practicing as practitioners, but it's also what we offer. It's a process of becoming. We don't offer outcomes. We offer a process of becoming. And I love it that you offer people concrete, applicable, just easy to read messages, easy to digest information, brief little glimpses into what neuromovement can be. And if you're watching this and you haven't checked out Jen's little videos on Instagram, you really should.
Go check them out Instagram. Yeah.
Go check them out, because there is a big leap between understanding the essentials, the things that set us up for neuroplastic change, and then living them, and not just living them for ourselves, but then helping the loved ones in our lives live them. So is this something that you offer then through MindFullMoves for Jen?
Yeah. So that's what I've been focused on. Obviously, I have an in-person practice. I see kids in person in Chilliwack, BC. It's near Vancouver, Canada. But I also offer online classes. I have drop-in Zoom classes. I offer private one-to-one sessions, which are it's just a fabulous way for me to enter your living space, your living environment, and see how do you interact with your child? Where can we tweak things just a little bit here and there to create those learning moments for your child? Because that's kind of what it's all about. It's learning doesn't just happen on a table for an hour with a practitioner. You as parents have front row seats to a million opportunities to create those learning moments in your everyday interactions with your child. Picking them up, brushing their teeth, feeding them, getting them dressed. Those are all activities that you can slow down and create a learning opportunity out of it.
So do you have, and it's okay if you don't, but do you have a quick story that comes to mind for how you as a parent or someone else as a parent was able to apply an essential to one of those daily activities and suddenly notice a change?
Yeah, for sure. I have a few like free videos. Well, I have a lot of free videos out there, but I have one free video that the title is Reduce Spasticity Without Stretching. 3 easy ways to reduce spasticity without stretching. And those 3 ways are basically using 3 essentials. And so a mom watched that video, her son happened to be sleeping, and all she did was slow down how she touched her son, support her child in what he was already doing and gently let it go, slow. So, and in that moment of, it was probably 30 seconds, maybe a minute long, he relaxed his arm in his sleep and he ended up sleeping, like, I guess he woke up. He traditionally woke up, kind of every hour or whatever, but he ended up like sleeping through the night. And that was, yeah, right?
That's huge.
Yeah.
As any parent knows, sleep is huge.
Right.
I love that.
So I, thinking about, again, condensing everything into something really simple and practical and easy for parents to take home is, like, I like to think of, like, there's 3 steps to create a learning moment in any everyday thing. So take the brushing of teeth, take getting them dressed, take picking them up, whatever. So the first, step number 1 would just be to slow yourself down. That's, like, it's huge. Our kids often have issues with the incoming information that's like bombarding us. You and I are able to filter through that. We have coping mechanisms through our experience. Our brains are able to organize and sift through that incoming information. But a lot of our kids, for whatever reason, my daughter's happens to be a genetic disorder. Some kids have brain injury. Their brains can't process all of that incoming information. It's just a big jumbly mess. And so just by you slowing down your action with your child of whatever you're going to do, brushing the teeth, picking them up, slowing it down, immediately allows their brain to filter through the noise and keep. It's like it's shining a spotlight on what you're doing, right? So they can focus on the movement that they're in the moment, kind of thing, just slowing yourself down. And that in itself, like slowing down, I use slowing down all the time with my own kids. Especially we're at the teenage stage in my house. My 2 girls are going through the teenage stage, and I find myself getting wrapped up emotionally in what they're doing, and simply by slowing down my own emotional response makes a world of difference. So not just thinking about slowing down your physical interactions with your child, but also your emotional response. And then, so that's step 1 is just slowing down. And that's often enough to create crazy changes, like huge changes with your child. And then the second step is to bring attention to what they're doing. What is your child already doing? What are they doing? And you can do that just with a soft hand. So if you're brushing their teeth, you could open their mouth with them, you're resting a hand on their chin or verbally talking. Oh, I see you're opening your mouth. Can you open a little wider? Can you open a little bit less, whatever. So you're bringing attention to what the action is, bringing attention to themselves, connecting them to themselves. And that slowing down and bringing attention to themselves immediately opens up. Now you have a learning brain. Now there's a brain that's available to learn.
And it's really interesting. I'm going to interject for a moment because I want to highlight for parents that you may already know a lot of this stuff, just learned through different lenses, right? So we took our kids to a play-based learning preschool where the teachers taught us to make space for the kids. So if a kid flops down on the floor, instead of hurrying in to figure something out or get them to do what they're supposed to be doing, just taking that pause to let them flop, often before you know it, they're back up. There was nothing to figure out. They just needed the flop time. And 2, you said bringing attention to what people are doing. Sometimes, and I know I'm guilty of this, we want to jump in and bring attention right away. Like say the kid flops and we're like, oh, did you notice you flopped down on the ground? Whoa, okay. So slow down. But then I learned through other methods to say in a really objective, non-judgmental way, oh, you flopped on the ground. What's up?
Yeah.
Right. And so whatever way you can bring yourself to relate to these concepts is a great way in. is a great way. And so you've got your 2, I bet you have a 3.
Yeah, those are that's excellent, excellent. That non-judgmental piece is huge, right? Yeah. I like to call it like the silent observer, right? So you're not attaching a meaning to the flopping down, right? It's just, this is what you're doing. Here we are. Here we are. We're holding the space for whatever it is. Yeah, that's excellent. And so now you've created the space for their learning brain to be on. So now, you know, you've got the attention of their brain. They're in a learning mode right there. So then you can start to add in variation. So that's kind of the third step I like to, because it's just the easiest, right? I mean, there's different ways that you can, you know, create learning, but, you know, adding in variation is just an easy way, especially as parents, right? So, you know, if it's the brushing the teeth, you slow down brushing the teeth, explain what you're doing, talk about it, you know, maybe touch different parts of, oh, your eyebrows go up as your mouth opens, whatever, you know, you're just kind of going through it, being silly, having fun, and then adding in variation. So brushing with the other hand, brushing with your eyes closed, adding in this variations, that's giving their brains quality information. So that really rich information that lets, that's starting to fill in the gaps that their brain might be missing.
Yeah, our brains crave novelty for a reason. And this is one way to bring in novelty. Yeah, so given these things that you've said so far, I want to get to the juicy part of our conversation. So knowing the essentials and knowing all this, what do you say to parents who come and saying, I put my kid on their tummy because doc said so, and they hate it? What do I do?
That's right. Yeah, so that's super common, especially in today's society. For whatever reason, tummy time is a thing. It's a thing. And I just want to challenge parents to think about, why are you putting your child in tummy time? Like, what is the reason? Why put your child in a position that they can't get into on their own or out of on their own? And, you know, the answers will probably be like, well, because a professional told me to, because it's going to help them with head control, or it's going to strengthen their neck muscles or their back muscles. So do you have any other, why, have you ever asked parents why they put their children in tummy time? Like, what would the reasons be that you think?
Some people actually go to trademarked tummy time classes, and it's a very popular thing to do. And I think it also helps. I don't think it's a stated reason for doing it, but I think it meets the need for both the parents and children to get some of their social needs met. So I don't want to discount that for parents, right? So maybe if that's a need you're wanting to have met, that's something you need to address if you're not going to be doing it through tummy time. Yeah,
exactly, right? So know your reason why you're doing tummy time. So if it's a social reason, is there another way you can be social without, especially if your child doesn't like it, right? If your child doesn't like tummy time, there's a reason. There's a reason why your child doesn't like tummy time. So it's because they're not ready for it, and their brain doesn't feel safe being smushed into the ground because they don't know how to hold their head upright. And I talk a lot about the head pelvis connection. Okay, so again, condensing all of the information that we learned in training. Obviously, there's more parts to us than just the head and the pelvis, but it's an easy gateway for most parents to kind of see and visualize and understand. So I'll see if my thing can, I love to demonstrate. So here we go. So I don't know if you guys can see, but so I like to think of the pelvis like a big ball that can roll back and forth and back and forth. And guess what? Our heads are attached through the spine to our pelvis. So when we roll our pelvis like a ball, it pulls on the spine and something happens to our head. Okay, and you can see my head kind of moving as we do this. So kids who are placed on their tummy before they're ready and they can't lift their heads up, it has nothing to do with neck muscle strength or core muscle strength. It has everything to do with how does their brain organize their head, their spine, and their pelvis? How does their brain organize their bodies in space?
Yeah.
And if they can't organize their bodies in space to lift their head up, it simply means they're not ready. They don't have the right information yet. They haven't gathered that experience yet. And placing them in a position that they don't like, you didn't create the space for their learning brain to be turned on. So once a child is in fear or in pain, the learning switch gets turned off. It's done, right? Yeah. So what is your child learning when they're in pain or uncomfortable or scared in tummy time? They're learning that experience, which isn't what you want, right? Usually the goal is to have better head control, and to be able to move through space efficiently. So if my pelvis is, I actually didn't put my daughter in tummy time because I instinctually knew it was like, she had a vicious reaction to it. She really disliked it for a very good reason. But I was very obsessed with checking off the next milestone and checking off the next milestone. And the next milestone for her developmental age was sitting up. So I ended up propping my daughter to sit up. And by placing her in a position that she couldn't get into on her own, her brain was smart enough to figure out a way to balance herself. So she balanced herself sitting like this, right? So her pelvis was tucked under, her head forward, and she could sit like this. Okay, so I could check that little check mark box of my daughter could sit, check. You could place your child in tummy time position and check off that little box of my child is in tummy time, right? But is it functional? Okay, no, so she learned to sit like this. If she reached over for a toy, she couldn't do it. She couldn't do it. It wasn't functional because her brain didn't know she had a pelvis that could roll. She was missing that experience, right? She didn't know that she could sit upright and stack her head over top of her pelvis. So she learned to sit with a lot of muscle effort. And so I'm engaging my core. I have to have really strong neck muscles. I have to have strong neck muscles to sit like this. So strong neck muscles and a strong core doesn't make the movement functional. Yeah.
No. But I find this story very hopeful because at some point we are all the parent who, for one reason or another, want to tick off the box. And usually it's out of love for our child and fear of what will happen if we don't. The good news is that if we prematurely tick a box, we can take a step back, which is, I'm sure, what you did. So do you want to share a little bit about how you stepped away from that and what happened instead?
Yeah, right. Well, it's interesting that if she's stressed or tired or, kind of fatigued in any way, she goes back to this. She'll go back to this. So that has been, so just a caution. I mean, not to put guilt because we've all done it, but these things do have an effect on the next milestone and the next milestone and the next milestone, right? Like they do. But the good news is that our brains can change at any time, at any age. And so by giving her ABM lessons, her brain was able to realize that she has a pelvis that can roll back and forth and she can stack her bones to make sitting effortless. That's the goal, is to make movement feel really good and not use a lot of effort in your movement, but make movement effortless.
Yeah.
So this is sitting with a lot of effort. This is sitting with the least amount of effort. And now I have more options in my movement. I can reach for things, I can get into crawling, etc. So what I kind of learned was backing off of checking those milestones off and trusting in the process, like trusting in she's going to, as long as I'm providing the space for her to learn. So I'm creating these mini mini spaces in our everyday life for her brain to, that learning switch to be turned on, to explore different ways to move, to have fun in it, to be engaged, to keep drawing her, to connect to herself, to her body.
Mm-hmm.
Trust that then they're going to figure out the next stage, and they're going to figure out their next stage, right? Like their brains are going to figure it out. All we have to do is provide the space and the opportunity for them to gather that quality information.
Right. And I love that, because there's a great parallel to a friend of mine. We had babies at the same time, and her mother is very wise. And at the time we had set up a toy share, right? Because we all want our babies to be maximally, neurostimulated and whatever.
Yeah.
And we would rotate toys, whatever. And her mom said, the world is an interesting enough place. And I think that really ties in very well with what you've said, because really the world is an interesting enough place. There's enough room in just our daily lives, in just the day-to-day, where we can create a lot of information for the brain to feed on. And all we have to do is live it. We just have to, as you say, trust that process, and things will continue to unfold. The world really is an interesting enough place.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
So I can see all the changes you've made. Well, cataclysmic changes almost, right? Because you've gone through a lot of changes in this process. What is something that you'd like to share with people that has really changed in your life, like in your personal life, as a result of engaging in this process?
Wow. Well,
Totally optional.
yeah, no, well, there's so much. I'm trying to condense it. And that's
Take your time.
That's how my brain works. How do I make it, condense it? All this rich experience into, one sentence. But I guess it would be that, what I've learned the most is probably that being present and being in the moment is okay.
Yeah.
Right. Being present in the mess, being present in the overwhelm, being present in the unknown. After the diagnosis of my daughter, it was so unknown, and it's a really, really scary. It's a scary place to be as a parent. But know that it's going to be okay. It really is going to be okay.
Yeah.
And finding that resilience and strength and connection to other like-minded parents, has been helpful.
Yeah.
And the whole, the whole process of, slowing myself down when I'm in overwhelm, connecting myself to I use these 3 steps all the time. So slowing myself down, bringing attention to myself and my movements, that in itself has been life-changing. And then responding to something in a different way, not falling into my habitual pattern of whatever it is. We all have our habitual emotional patterns, right?
Yes.
So it's opened doors, given me a sense of peace. And a lot of hope. I think that's probably maybe what the Anat Baniel method really does give families, is hope. There's hope now. It's not one set diagnosis, prognosis. It's hope of unlimited potential. There really is unlimited potential.
Because we don't know where it'll go, but we know it will go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And I want to tease out something you said in there, which I think is really important, because, with the popularity of mindfulness now, a lot of people talk about being present, being aware. And I think what this method offers beyond that, or offers in a slightly different way, is that we are not simply silent observers, right? We are not looking to find peace by being a silent witness. We are actively feeling into our experience. There's no dissociating from our life. There's no running away from it. We are actively feeling into our experience and finding peace that way.
Yeah.
or at least the potential for peace.
Yeah, that's such a good point, because the object of life isn't to be flatlined in peace, right? The
No.
object in life is to experience those crazy ups and downs and enjoy, have peace in those moments, enjoy it in those moments. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I know that if I had a young child with special needs, I would definitely want to know more about your products. Can you share a bit more here about where parents can access your work?
Yeah, for sure. So you can find me on Instagram at mindfulmoves.jen, 2 L's. I do a lot of the free little videos that you can, very actionable steps of how to pick your child up, how to reduce spasticity, how to get that head pelvis control, kind of bring attention to that kind of stuff. So simple things you can do in your everyday life. But I also have a online membership of like on-demand videos, a whole library of on-demand videos that you can go through. They're in sections. So there's bearing weight section, there's reducing spasticity section, there's better head control section without tummy time. So there's different sections that wherever you're at in your journey can be helpful for you, your family. And then I also offer private Zoom classes and one-on-one sessions. Those have been so fascinating. The private one-on-one Zoom classes, it's just amazing the connection that you can actually have over Zoom and entering people's living rooms with their children. It's so exciting to me to have that ability to see people from across the world seeing changes with their children from their living room, right? Like, how amazing is that, right? How exciting. What a wonderful time we live in. It's so amazing.
So people can access you from anywhere thanks to the magic of Zoom.
Yeah, the magic of Zoom. Yeah. So you can find all of those details through my website, mindfulmoves.com. I also have a Facebook group for parents that, parent support. So you can find me on Facebook too. So
yeah, nice. So what would you tell parents who have never experienced ABM, are thinking about bringing their child or helping their child through ABM? What special message might you have for them?
Go try it. Go try it. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. My biggest advice for parents, like just after a diagnosis, is go see the professionals who use your intuition when you go see a professional. If there's something that's nagging at the back of your mind, trust it and go find a different professional to work with. So if your child is crying during the sessions, or if something doesn't feel right to you as a parent, there's a reason for it. Go find somebody else, because there's lots of other service providers out there. And go try the Anat Baniel method as well. And another really super common question I get is like, I found an ABM practitioner that we really like, but should I go see another ABM practitioner? And my answer is always, yes, go see other ABM practitioners. If you're in an area where you're lucky enough to see ABM practitioners in person, go see them all, because we all have our unique stories and history, and we all have unique ways of touching and connecting with your child. And that, again, is just that variation on the quality of information that your child's brain can collect and use in something useful. So for sure, go see other practitioners. Most of us nowadays do offer some sort of Zoom class or some sort of online thing. Go check them out. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and know that we're all in this because we want people to experience the magic, not because we want people to see us. But I recommend the same as you, and I'm like, yes, enjoy it, have fun, do.
Yeah, go see.
And we want you to have fun with it. We want you to experience it all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's about experiencing how many really cool experiences can you collect, and yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And so once this goes live, people have heard your links, but you can also drop them in the comments below so people can find you.
Okay.
And Is there anything else before I thank you and say, oh my gosh, this was wonderful?
Um, no, I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was really, unless you think I'm missing something. Am I missing something?
Well, you know what? This has been
Mm.
so much fun and I've so enjoyed myself that I bet if we think of something more, we can do another interview another time.
Yeah, there
Sound
you
good?
go. Yeah, yeah, that's
Awesome.
perfect. Okay.
Thank you so much for joining me.